This is Pastor Trevor Thomas from Koinonia Ministries in Durban, South Africa. The title of my sermon today is Our Sister Phoebe. My reading is taken from Romans 16:1 and 2. I commend to you our sister Phoebe, a servant of the church at Cenchrea, that you may welcome her in the Lord in a way worthy of the saints, and help her in whatever she may need from you, for she has been a patron of many and of myself as well. Whenever I drive past King Edward Hospital, I think of my mother Margaret. There was a time when I was a little boy when I went for a procedure, and my mother made sure that everything went well for me before going in. Even when I came out, she made sure everything was well. It was the best hospital in those days. Then my brother Edmund landed there in his last days. My mother also landed there before she passed on in 2020. Tears begin to well up in my eyes whenever I drive past the hospital because of the precious memories. The person is missing, but her spirit of every virtue she stood for is alive. Thoughts come to me of how she would single-handedly light an outside fire. Then you saw what the Indians call the chudi kambi. You knew a sheep's head was ready for the special outside fire pot. But you also knew how the person behind that sheep head would make sure how clean it must be before cooking it. When the curry was cooked, you dined at the table and saw a vision from heaven. I miss a good sheephead curry from special hands. You then express yourself in biblical language and you say, "What manner of woman is this? Even the pots obey her." The personal crushing of spices and the blending of them already created the aroma when the smoke transported the aroma of the pot into the house. But I had such a delicacy last Friday at our men's fellowship. Many have testified of my mother's love and care for them. Many in the community from different social statuses ate at our table. Pastors ate, missionaries ate, beggars ate, and all kinds of people ate at our table. I grew up where the spirit of hospitality was born. A very special Happy Mother's Day to all of you. Mothers are not secret agents with an agenda. They are secret servants who serve. I have 3 points to my sermon, but I shall share one with you today. Paul's commendation, Paul's recognition, and Paul's estimation. We'll talk about Paul's commendation today. Who is Paul commending here? He's commending a very special woman in his life. A woman who was able to do something to spread the gospel in practical ways that none else could do. Yes, Phoebe was a woman of integrity. She was a businesswoman who knew full well the postal system of the Roman Empire. She knew the urgency that the Roman senators, the military, the engineers, and others needed, especially when important news was to get to Rome quickly. And of course, they used the Roman postal system that was most efficient. I can't say much for the South African postal system, but the Roman postal system assured you safety on the roads and rapid responses of taking action occurred when criminals tried to hijack the system. So we can say that the Romans had a powerful communication system at work in the then known world. And Phoebe knew that. So as a busy businesswoman, she would have her goods transported safely to reach its destination in Rome. And Paul's letter, this very letter we are reading from, had to be transported to the Roman Christians with speed and with urgency. And there was no one who could transport it. Who do you think Paul had in mind to help him deliver this most important letter? Tradition tells us that he asked Phoebe to deliver it. Why would you choose a busy person to get things done for you? Those who take their time never get it done. You ask them, when are you going to do the chore? Tomorrow, they say. You ask again, when are you going to do the chore? Tomorrow, they say. You even broke up the words and separated them like a piano player would execute them. Yes, like when you hear a piano playing by the pianist who uses the device of staccato. Ting, 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 ting. A detached sound of every note. Even if you say the words in a detached way, some people won't get the instruction done. What about that picture frame still not on the wall? And the screws are lying there and the hammer is lying there, nothing's done. But on the other hand, busy people have to get things done because it is in their custom to always be busy. So what do? You give it to a busy person. And why do you find this sort of thing at work? The bosses know the people who are busy, and they put more work into their hands. It is because they know that this person is going to get it done. But then you get other type of busy people who are busybodies. All they like to do is gossip. Do you know of those who, when they hear one tale, they gossip about it over and over and over again? And that's how we get the word talebearers. They are busybodies. Phoebe is not this kind of a person. She is busy doing good. She is industrious. She is reliable. And how do we know this about Phoebe? Verse 1 is clear. I commend to you, Sister Phoebe, at Cenchrea. Paul refers to her as a servant. The reference to servant here is in a noble sense. Phoebe's service was to the glory of God. She helped move the engine of the gospel. You know Paul's heart? He saw the Roman roads as fingers pointing to one destination, the very city of Rome. He said, if my letter reaches Rome, it will reach the entire world for Christ. It will reach the very center where Christ can be lifted up. And who better can transport this letter, but one who is reliable and industrious. One that can deliver this majestic letter. And in those days, people from all over the world came to Rome for commerce, for trading. Imagine if they had access to this letter, and many did. Many who read and heard took its message from Rome to their own countries. Look at the strategy of one servant and one man writing a gospel letter that has changed the world. The great literary writer Samuel Taylor Coleridge said that the book of Romans is the greatest piece of writing in existence, and this man is a master of literature. Let's stop right here. Do we have such a desire? A desire that the gospel reaches people, that the gospel has wings? Paul has a very special heart for Phoebe. He commends her. He says in verse 1, I commend to you our sister Phoebe, in his last greetings, and this is the last chapter. He never forgets to include her name. Because if you read the last chapter, there are lots of names in the last chapter. This also tells us something else about Paul, especially that he remembers all these names in this last chapter. How does Paul remember these names, especially so many names? Read the chapter when you have time today or this week. And there is only one indication I get of how Paul remembers all of their names that he greets. It is because Paul was praying for them. And he was praying regularly for them by name. And because he was praying for them by name, he remembered their names. I remember my mother being a prayer warrior, and her prayers got answered. Her prayers lifted her room, and the climate in the entire house was changed. Her prayers were long and agonizing. She prayed for each of us, her children, and those outside, by name. She prayed for special needs, and God came through. She showed us that God was real, and He indeed answered prayers. That's the climate we grew in. Even my brother Ashley tells me, hey, I can still remember the way Ma prayed. In my lonely hours, I think of those prayers and that posture. And in my own way, I cry out to the Lord. May the Lord bless you this day. Amen.